So, guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren. Wir haben jetzt 10:03 Uhr und ich würde jetzt sagen, wir starten mal. Mein Name ist Minjay Suhr von Maier Vidorno Altios und im Namen auch von unseren Partnern, Herrn Yasushi Hasegawa und Satoshi Takayama, begrüße ich Sie heute herzlich zu unserem Webinar. Und ja, vielen Dank nochmal für Ihr Interesse und die große Resonanz. Das heutige Webinar soll um den japanischen Automobil- und Nutzfahrzeugmarkt gehen. Zu Beginn noch einige Worte zu uns, zu Maier Vidorno Altios. Maier Vidorno Altios ist in 36 Büros beziehungsweise auch in 22 Ländern weltweit vertreten und wir bieten deutschsprachigen Unternehmen verschiedene und auch individuell angepasste Lösungen für die Internationalisierung. Hierbei geht es um die Erarbeitung ihrer internationalen Wachstumsstrategie, über die Gründung und den operativen Betrieb mit der täglichen Compliance bis hin zu grenzübergreifenden M&A-Projekten. Und bei all diesen Schritten begleiten wir Sie. Sie können uns gerne jederzeit kontaktieren, wenn es um internationale Projekte geht. Und weitere Informationen finden Sie natürlich auch auf der Website. So, nun kommen wir zu unserem heutigen Webinar. Da unser vergangenes Webinar zum japanischen Markt im Frühjahr einen sehr großen Zulauf hatte, wollen wir uns heute auf den japanischen Automotive-Sektor konzentrieren und über seine Chancen, über die Herausforderungen und richtige Strategien sprechen. Auch wenn die meisten von Ihnen wahrscheinlich schon mit Webinaren vertraut sind, nochmal ganz kurz der technische Hinweis. Alle Teilnehmenden sind automatisch im Zuhörermodus. Das heißt, sie sind stumm geschaltet. Sie können aber jederzeit bei Fragen, Anliegen in die Chatbox unten schreiben. Die werden wir dann im Nachgang in der Q&A-Session beantworten. Ansonsten auch im Nachgang nochmal per E-Mail. Zusätzlich wird das Webinar aufgezeichnet. Das heißt, wenn Sie gerne im Nachhinein nochmal die Aufzeichnung haben möchten, können Sie mich einfach kontaktieren. Dann schicke ich Ihnen den Link zu. So, jetzt werden wir ins Englische wechseln und hiermit übergebe ich das Wort an meine beiden Kollegen, Herrn Hasegawa und Herrn Takayama. So, gentlemen, I will say the stage is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. Hello, everyone. I'm Yasushi Hasegawa, founder and managing director of Financial Partners, which is a strategic Japan partner for Maier Vidorno Altios. So it's a great pleasure for us to give you a presentation which explains the potential of the Japanese automotive industry and some our insights about the market entry strategy. And let me introduce my colleague, another co-founder, Satoshi.
Hi. Thank you very much for joining in this webinar. I'm Satoshi Takayama. I'm specialized in the industrial machinery components and also automotive. Yeah.
Yes. Mainly, I give you a presentation, and Satoshi sometimes jump in to explain his first-hand experience in the automotive industry. So let me start with our company overview. We are a sort of market entry consulting firm focusing on Japan. And we are based in Tokyo, the center of Tokyo, Roppongi, which is the place for international businesses. We've been operating our business since 2008, which was the worst timing to start something new, but we have survived, and now we have roughly 30 people, and we have worked over 400 projects so far. And most of our clients are mid-sized industrial goods suppliers, which annual sales in the range between 10 million and a few hundred millions, mainly from North America, Germany and its neighboring countries like Switzerland, Netherlands, Denmark. And we partly work for Japanese companies on their global expansion, but it's very limited. And of course, we as a market entry consultant, we provide consulting service, market research, but our main focus is on implementation of sales and marketing, because most of our clients are mid-size, so just giving advice is not enough for most of them. So that's why we do sales and marketing activities on behalf of our clients. This is our main business. And you can find some of our clients. We have some famous German company, and we also work for some public trade and investment organizations, mainly from the US and partly from Europe. And you can also find some Japanese companies' name. And I'd like to start with sharing an overview of Japan economy. Probably, since you've been working in the automotive industry, and many of you guys are familiar with Japan, but I'd like to explain some key figures which highlight how Japan is. So probably I can skip some figures, but please see this GDP. Japan is still ranked world number 3. Still, the economy size is big, but the growth rate is quite small. This is partly because of COVID, but usually it's between 0 and 1%. So you should not expect a big growth in Japan. And now I'm going to explain some shocking figures. The first one is GDP per capita, which is 40,000. So 20 years ago, Japan was ranked world number 2 in terms of GDP per capita. So Japan was a very rich country, but now it's ranked 24, 5th, 6th, just above Italy. So you should not expect rich consumers here. So now Japan is getting poorer and poorer compared with other countries. And another shocking figure is median age, which is getting close to 50 years old. So I have to say, Japan is getting poorer and older, and the population is decreasing rapidly. In the past few years, we lost 500,000 population every year. So it's like mid-sized German cities are disappearing. So every year, so which is not a good idea for our economy, because the number of consumers and workforce is decreasing at the same time. And this is the reality of Japan. And this is our GDP. It's peaked out in the last century, and we had the bad time, or the world had the economic crisis in 2008, and in 2011 we had the big earthquake with nuclear incident. At that time, we experienced a terrible situation. But in the past several years before COVID, it was recovering. But now, like this, we experienced a several percent drop, and now we are recovering. But you can see it's flat. So, except for Japan, most of the countries are growing. Germany, US, of course, China, all other countries are growing, but Japan is not growing. So I can say it's stable, but you should not expect growth. And on the next slide, you can see the market of the domestic market of the automotive. So we had the highest score, roughly 8 million units sold a year, roughly 30 years ago. But it's been declining. Now it's less than 5 million, so it's a huge drop. So what do you think about this statistics? So it looks like Japanese automotive companies are not doing well. However, many of you guys are aware of the fact most of Japanese companies are growing globally. So when you focus on the domestic market of automotive of Japan, the statistics shows a negative figure. However, I believe you can find potential with your Japanese customers, not in Japan. Let me explain it in detail. This is an overview of the Japanese automotive market. It's still third largest for both production and sales. However, in the past 3 years, we experienced a 15% drop due to the COVID and the shortage of semiconductors and subcomponents. But now, I believe Japanese automotive companies restarted growing this year. And during that period, many big Japanese automotive players are seeking some opportunities of making alliance with other companies. Toyota started working together with Suzuki and Subaru for HV or EV, and Nissan and Mitsubishi in the same Renault alliance launched their EV on their partnership. And Honda established a joint venture between their suppliers and Hitachi, which is one of the biggest electronics company in Japan, for developing autonomous driving software, sensors, and devices. So this is the current situation of the Japanese automotive market. And the Nikkei, the most famous Japanese business media, publishes the reports which predicts in 2040 Japanese companies follow a global trend and EU regulations. It means they are shifting to EV. So half of cars sold in Japan in 2040 will be EV. And they also expect or predict taxis are self-driving in big cities in 2040. But the traditional engine system will remain for big commercial vehicles like truck. So this is an overview. So you can see Japan at the world rank number 3 on both production and sales. And unfortunately, it's declining. However, you can see many big Japanese players in the top 20 ranking in terms of sales units, like Toyota, Nissan, Honda, Suzuki, Matsuda, Subaru. And if you accumulate if you accumulate the figures of Japanese brands, the total could be over 30%. So I can say roughly 1/3 of the global car market is dominated by Japanese brands. So this is a reality. Japanese automotive companies are dominating the global market of cars. So again, the domestic market of Japan is shrinking. However, they are doing very well. You can see some secret here. So this is a overseas sales ratio. So for example, Toyota earns roughly 85% outside Japan, Honda 86%. And this is a production overseas ratio. So nowadays, most of the big Japanese automotive players don't rely on the domestic market of Japan. So they are growing by export and global expansion. This is a reality of the Japanese automotive companies. So you can see the chart. It's just before COVID. So you can see the domestic sales here, almost 5 million. At the same time, you can see the same figure, 5 million exports. So that's why this is a total domestic production. At the same time, those players are expanding their production facilities outside Japan. So the total production is like this. So the domestic market of Japan is rapidly shrinking, but Japanese customers your potential customers are growing. So this is my recommendation. you should not focus on the statistics of the domestic market of Japan, but you should focus on your potential customers, which are growing globally. So you can find very interesting research, which is conducted by AHACA Japan. They distributed the questionnaire to their membership, so German companies in Japan. So the questionnaire was asking, which is bigger, A and B? B is a simple figure, sales revenue from Japanese customers in Japan. A is revenue from Japanese customers worldwide or outside Japan. And roughly half of them answered A is greater than B. So they are doing business development in Japan, but they are more sales outside Japan. And more surprisingly, roughly 20% answered they are 4 times bigger outside Japan than inside Japan. So now still many automotive players and other suppliers of machinery or components in other advanced engineering industries are entering Japan. But their goal is not to deliver to Japan only, but also they like to deliver to Japanese customers located all over the world. Probably some of you guys think you can directly develop Japanese customers in other countries like US, China, Europe. But I have to say, if you are selling very important components or equipment like software or autonomous driving, filter or engine or some sensor for safety driving, definitely your decision makers are in Japan. That kind of decisions are made in Japan. So you have to have a technical discussion with the key person in Japan, and finally you will have a chance to deliver to their subsidiary located all over the world, like in China, India. But if you are selling a cheap product or commodity like spring, screw, or very simple ones, you can directly sell to their subsidiaries outside Japan. And you will have some bonus when you have a business with Japanese companies. This is the statistics of FDI stock in Asian countries. These guys are investors. These guys are destinations. So it shows how much investors have invested in each Asian countries. So you can see Japan in as a #1 investor in China, Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, and second in other countries like India, Indonesia, Vietnam. It means if you do business development in other Asian countries, you often encounter Japanese potential customers. So if you have developed some Japanese customers in Japan, you will have a chance to deliver to their factories in those other Asian countries. So, and Thailand is a good example. Thailand has a big car market, number 10 for car production, with 2 million units capacity. Now their production figure has declined because of COVID, but they still have 2 million units capacity. And the domestic market share of Thailand automotive is dominated by Japanese companies. The market share is like roughly 90%. And it is said over 70% of auto companies in Thailand are Japanese. So if you do business development to like Volvo in Thailand, probably it's not efficient if you ignore other many Japanese companies. So it can be seen not only in Thailand, but also in Indonesia or China, India, of course. So when you think about market entry into Japan, you should not focus on the domestic market of Japan again. And I recommend you see global market where Japanese companies are located. So I hope you guys understand the potential of doing business with Japanese customers. And now I'm going to explain about their culture and the decision-making system because it's very different from European ones or American ones. So first of all, I need to explain about the Japanese HR system, which is very unique, famous with some concepts, lifetime employment and seniority based payment. So in Japan, big companies usually recruit new graduates, like 300, 400 at the same time, and they start working as of April 1st. So the recruitment style is like a military service. This way is very unique. It can be seen only in Japan or partly in South Korea, I think. So they started working at the age of 22, 3, 4, and their salary increased like this. And at the age of 65, they are semi-automatically retired. So it's not regulated by labor law, but most of or all Japanese companies have a retirement regulation. So they release even high performer at the age of 65. So and the payment is designed on how many years you've been working for the same employer. So your performance doesn't matter. So this is a very unique labor culture and HR system in Japan. And you can find this term, job rotation. So outside Japan, if you were asked, how do you do? Probably you will answer, I'm an IT guy or a marketing guy. But in Japan, people answer, I'm a Toyota guy. I'm working for Sony, because they change job. They change job often inside the same employer. They started working as a sales, and they change their job internally to marketing, or they are forced to change. They sometimes transfer to some factory in India, maybe, and they change their job very often in the same employer. It's very different from other countries. So there are advantages and disadvantages. So Japanese business person is very familiar with different functions. So with sales, marketing, production, for example, so they can have some perspective view of doing business. But at the same time, some don't have some specialty or some professional jobs. So this is our Japanese culture. And so imagine the situation, they are not promoted to a manager until 40 years, and they cannot be promoted to a senior manager until 50 years old, usually. So they have no reason to take risk because performance doesn't matter. So that's why most of Japanese employees don't want to take risks. Sometimes doing nothing is the best strategy for them to secure their position in their organization. And this is our organizational culture. For example, in the US, top-down is a majority of decision-making system. But in Japan, we say middle up and down. Maybe it sounds strange. Usually, middle managers are super busy because they need to get an approval from top level or senior level, and at the same time, they have to make consensus in their team or some related to other teams. So this is a consensus base. Sometimes our foreign clients ask us, who is a key person? But it's very complicated. He may be a key person, but he can't make a decision on his own responsibility. He has to persuade many people, colleagues, other managers, senior managers. So it's really, time consuming and energy consuming to make a decision internally. That's why it takes a lot of time to replace your competitor products by yours, because they have to make a lot of consensus. And again, people think it doesn't make sense to take a risk. So they usually go on a conservative way. This is the reason why it takes a time for getting sales from a Japanese customer. And let me explain about our business culture in Japan a bit more. This is a framework, cultural dimension developed by Hosted, and Japan has three highest scores in 6 dimensions. The first one is masculinity. Our culture is very masculine, so we men sacrifice family and personal life for achieving some shared goal for our employer. That's why most of the business people in Japan are not happy. So some research said the Japan is the worst country in terms of happiness of working at the work. And Japan also has a very high score of uncertainty avoidance. So it means people are risk averse, conservative, and cautious. And people prefer long-term orientation. Yeah, Germany has also very high score. I think it's a good similarity between two countries. So those two dimensions are the reason of the difficulty of getting into the Japanese market, because they don't want to take risk and they prefer long-term relationship with their current suppliers. That's why it's really tough. And your competitors are really masculine. They don't sleep for meeting requirements from their customers, and they never say no to their customers. So this is the reason why it's tough to get into the Japanese market. However, once you enter the Japanese market or develop a Japanese customer, those barriers will protect your long-term sales from a Japanese customer. So it takes some time to enter, but finally you will benefit the long-term relationship with your Japanese customer. The reason of this culture is mainly from this samurai culture. So it's very, very masculine. And of course, this culture is abandoned 150 years ago, recently. However, we still have this kind of obsession in our mentality. We cannot make any mistakes because we have to commit suicide mentality in our mentality. So, so we are perfectionists, and we really are risk averse. And this is our decision-making system in the supply chain. Have you ever heard this term, KRETS? KRETS means exclusive supply chain network ruled by big OEM. Like Toyota has its own supply chain network, and Nissan, Honda has their own supply chain network. And in the past several years, Nissan and Honda announced they started destroying KRETS because they like to explore opportunities over sourcing good products or components from foreign countries. However, Toyota keeps very strict supply chain. So it's very difficult to make a deal with Toyota for a supplier to Nissan. And for you, it's same. It's very difficult to enter. And the relationship is very hierarchical. In Europe, the relationship between OEM and the supplier is somewhat equal. However, in Japan, OEM usually try to control their suppliers. For example, if their supplier has a cost issue, Toyota will put a lot of pressure to them. You should decrease your price. If they say no, Toyota sometimes send a team to their factories to do some investigation, even though there's no financial partnership. So this is a very exclusive and unfair partnership between OEM and suppliers. Of course, in front of you, they are polite. However, big Japanese automotive manufacturers look down suppliers, for sure. But of course, they are polite to you. And for decision-making system is different depending on each product or each OEM. Sometimes a decision maker is in OEM, sometimes a decision maker is in Tier 1. So it depends on your product or depends on each OEM. And quality requirement is another key issue when you work with a Japanese customer. Again, we are perfectionists because we don't want to commit suicide, harakiri. Of course, I'm joking, but people are really perfectionists here, and they love micromanagement. This is a good example. This is a specification provided from European company to a Chinese factory. You can see these products. And this is another specification provided by Japanese company to the same Chinese factory. Products seem very, similar or almost same. However, the way of making specification is very different. It's crazy. They love micromanagement. So this is another obstacle when you work with a Japanese company. Or this is a very important role of a global sales manager to persuade your engineers to adapt to this annoying culture. So my colleague Satoshi has a lot of terrible experiences about quality issues. So he can give you some first-hand experiences.
I was in the automotive industry. So I worked for the US manufacturing company, and I was in charge of the automotive components. It was a fuel filter for the engines, and the filter was made in the US, and the customers were, of course, Japanese OEMs. And one of the terrible experience was that the filter had some scratch on the housing of the filter. So the customer found, hey, there's a scratch on the housing of the filter. But actually, the housing is not related to the performance of the filter. So, but I reported this to the US colleague, then, hey, our customer found the small scratch on the surface of the filter. Then he said, hey, it's not related to the performance, so I don't care about it. So the customer should not care with. But the customer said, no. Even though this scratch is not related to the performance of the filter, but housing has a scratch. It's a part of the quality. So you should take care of this scratch and try to improve, and please send me the reports, the corrective action report, not to make any scratches and not to miss the filters with scratches. So then the US colleague did not understand clearly why, but this is a typical experience or typical case of the perfectionism of Japanese OEM. So not about also the customer cared about even the boxes of the filter. Of course, the car drivers do never see the boxes, but they also care about the boxes, even from the scratch on the boxes. They care much about it. So that's a kind of typical experience, which the US colleagues could not understand.
It's really annoying.
Yes, terrible experience. But I think that such culture is still the same in Japan. So we must be careful about with such terrible quality issues.
Yeah, in some countries, you can replace the problem products by new one. That's it. But it doesn't work in Japan.
Yeah, in Japan, the customer request, please submit the quality corrective action report within 1 week, like this.
So yeah. Okay. So
tough experience. Yeah.
And now Satoshi has an experience, like being taken into the court, and he was accused by 10 of engineers. And
yeah, also in the quality issue meeting, I was requested by the customer to visit and explain the cause of the quality issue and corrective action. So I visited the customers, OEM customers. Then I was alone to explain the quality issue, and 10 engineers surrounded me. Then told me, "Hey, please explain." Another guy explain why this quality issue happened. So it was really, mentally tough experience. But this kind of a meeting happened a lot. So I think in the US or in Germany this does not happen, but in Japan it happened a lot. It was another tough meeting.
Our culture is very masculine.
Yes, that's totally true. Yeah.
So that's why we usually say you need a local staff working on the ground in Japan, because if your customer finds some defect, they'll just say, please come here right now. So if you have a local distributor, probably they don't like to experience such a situation. They usually ask a manufacturer, hey, it's your job, you should go. So
exactly.
Okay, and this is our distribution channel structure in the automotive or construction machinery industry. So you may expect your distributor try to sell to many end users, but it doesn't happen. The reality is like this. So the main role of a distributor in these fields is on logistics, mainly for just-in-time delivery. Usually they have a warehouse near their factory of end user A, and they have different thousands of types of components, and they deliver it to end user every day. And if we were a company try to have a business with end user A, actually for this distributor, there's no make difference between your company or another company, supplier C, because the price of products are in the same range usually, and the profit is almost same. So this guy usually say, whichever, as far as end user A likes it. So this guy is not interested in promoting your products. So what you have to do is you do sales directly to end user A and reach an agreement, and then they will say, please export your products to this guy, and you ship, and this distributor imports your products and store it in their warehouse. So this is the reality of a distribution channel structure in Japan. So again, you have to do sales directly to end user by yourself. So this is a theory of comparing different market entry options. The vertical axis shows the degree of risk, and the horizontal one shows control. So the best way or ideal way is here, trade. You just find a local distributor. You do nothing, but your products are automatically sold by the effort made by your local distributor. However, it doesn't happen in the automotive sector or commercial vehicle or construction machinery. So you have to have your own sales staff. So another extreme way is direct investment. You register your own subsidiary and hire local talents, but it requires a lot of investment upfront. And there are some options like M&A, joint venture, but it takes a lot of time because Japanese companies are very conservative. Sometimes you need to spend a few years to reach an agreement to acquire a Japanese company, or they may decline after 3 years you have spent. So it's not a good option at the beginning of market entry. So we usually recommend middle risk with high control. So let me explain about this option later. And in some case, you will be able to find a good distributor. In the case you are selling some production equipment or some inspection machinery, which is equipment, one-time purchasing one. In such case, you may be able to find a distributor. However, Japan is at this stage of economic development, so most of Japanese distributors are really, conservative. They don't want to invest in new products. So usually, their response to your partnership offer is negative. It's very difficult. And so in reality, you have to have your own staff in Japan working on the ground. So there are 3 options. The first one is you hire your own employee. So in such case, you have to set up or register your own subsidiary for hiring your own employees, but it requires large investment upfront. But you can control anything. However, you have to start from scratch. The second one, hiring an agent working on commission base. But please remember this working culture. It's mission impossible in Japan. Sometimes some companies ask us to find their agent, but with their HR culture of lifetime employment, only a guy who dropped out could be a candidate. Probably they are not a good performer. And another option is here, hiring a sales rep company like us. It requires some monthly fixed fees, but you can take advantage of their knowledge, experience, or sometimes some existing contacts with key companies. So again, you have to hire someone working on the ground if you like to develop Japanese customer in Japan. But there are some options, and there are pros and cons. And when you try to hire someone in Japan, please be careful with the labor culture in Japan with lifetime employment. So usually, most of our clients expect the person we hire has technical background with their products, and of course, industry experience like automotive, construction machinery, good sales communication skill, and of course, English. If you expect such a Superman, probably it will take several years or 10 years. I don't know. It's almost impossible to find such a guy because actually, a few percent of our business population speak English. So, and you require other things. And most of Japanese people are shy. They don't have a strong communication skill. So in this case, we usually recommend, let's hire 2 people. One guy working part-time basis who has a sales experience in the automotive. Another guy has a technical background. So Of course, also this guy works on part-time basis. I think this kind of combination will be making sense more than wasting time for trying to find a Superman. And in some cases, like your competitors, American or European companies have a subsidiary in Japan, you can do headhunting, which could be another option. However, please remember lifetime employment. So if you hire, or if you do headhunting, like a 45 years guy, so this salary is guaranteed by his existing employer, maybe 1.5 million or 2 million. So he will ask you, can you guarantee 2 million as my future income? Probably you say no. So this is the difficulty of hiring a guy from a Japanese company. And from your competitors, like American or European companies, some may say yes, but most of them are professional job hoppers. They change their job once in a few years. So that's why headhunting wouldn't be the perfect solution as well. So in the last section, I'd like to explain some case studies. In all cases, we work as our client's Japan's virtual subsidiary, strategic local sales team in Japan. And the first case is a supplier of body parts. Kayama-san, could you explain this?
Yes. So this case one is, I think it's a German body parts company, and but there Japanese OEM related projects were actually led by their US subsidiary, because their main target OEMs are Nissan and Honda, and which had a strong presence in the US market. So from the beginning, we mainly focused on Nissan and Honda because they already had a good connection, and they wanted to expand the business with Japanese OEMs, not only within the US but also other countries. And so as their US subsidiary has been delivering their products to Nissan and Honda in the US, so in Japan, for us, finding the key purchasing people of these OEMs in Japan was not so tough. So the important thing in this stage was to have a local Japanese sales engineer who can visit these Japanese OEMs immediately when requested by these OEMs. And I think such a local presence in Japan helped a lot to start deep technical discussions with these OEMs in Japan. Then finally, we could win the project for Nissan's new project in Mexico by supporting a lot of discussions with purchasing and engineers in Japan. And also we supported for Honda's projects, and it's not only about the US, but also we supported the China-related products by communicating their engineers located in Japan. So that was, I think, quite successful project. But as you see on the right side, there's a termination of the contract because this client was actually acquired by another European company which already had their Japanese subsidiary, so they could use their Japanese staff. Then they are kind of graduated from our service. Then I think their business has been still growing in Japanese market. So that's a case. Yeah.
What do you think about this?
You mean Toyota?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's quite important thing. Actually, Honda or Nissan are quite open to out of cadence suppliers because they are, destroying the cadence. But in case of Toyota, it's, they have a very strict cadence pyramid, and they always tend to procure parts from Toyota case supplier. So to be honest with you, I don't recommend the overseas companies to target Toyota from the beginning because it's very difficult. So I really recommend not to prioritize Toyota, but Honda or Nissan or other companies like Mazda, Subaru would be less difficult to start a business. That's my experience or opinion, yes.
Okay, the next case is for fuel parts company.
Yes, this is a fuel parts, and I think it's from Israel, and they are actually tier 2 company. And when we started to support this company, I think they did not have a direct business connection with either Nissan or Mazda or such OEM companies directly. But they have already worked with tier 1 company in Europe, and this tier 1 company had a good connection with Japanese OEM. And I think the interesting thing was that depending on the OEM, the design responsibility of this kind of fuel parts was OEM or tier 1. So in some OEM, for example, in case of Nissan, the design responsibility was Nissan. But in case of Mazda, the design responsibility for this fuel parts was tier 1. So it totally depends on the strategy of OEM. But of course, tier 1 companies contributed a lot to win the business with this OEM. And as you see, we successfully won the project with Mazda in 2021. It's a €500,000. It's a quite great success. And also the global success, also outside of Japan, could be a few million. The reason was that when we start to support this client, we assigned a sales engineer which had a quite deep technical knowledge about their products, like especially mechanical and chemical knowledge. And as we could assign such a right sales engineer who already our employee before this supporting this Israeli client, so we could be successful in this client. And this Israeli client liked our sales engineer very much, and he contributed a lot to win this project, especially with Mazda.
Actually, that person had serious sick, and he was absent for a few months. But the client was waiting for his recovery because the client really trusts him. So
yeah, he accumulated a lot of knowledge about their product. Yeah.
The third case is for production equipment supplier.
Yes, they are, I think, German machinery company used in the automotive company, and this is not, for the mass production installed in the automotives, but they manufactured a machine for the production lines. And originally, this client had already a few Japanese importers, but these importers did not work proactively as this client expected. So that's why we started to support this German client. But interestingly, after we started our sales and marketing activities, we found that Japanese automotive companies showed, or Japanese automotive, OEM, or also tier 1 companies showed interest a lot in this German company's machinery. Then after that, these Japanese existing importers also showed interest in promoting this client's products again. So we also found another new candidate importers which showed interest in this client. So the discussions with the automotive companies very well, thanks to our sales engineer. Then after that, the Japanese importers became very proactive, and then finally our client thought that this importer could work proactively to promote their products. Then finally they decided to terminate the contract with us because they thought these importers could sell the product. So we made a kind of chance to revitalize or to start again the business in Japanese market. Then they are kind of graduated from our service.
Yeah, but I think it's too early. Probably now they are facing some troubles, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, that's also possible. Yeah, this company was a machinery company, but in case of the parts companies installed in the automotives, in that case, I think such companies needs a local presence like our support. Yeah.
So, and we also have some cases for suppliers which are selling to construction machinery and commercial vehicles, and time is running out, so let's skip it. So you can see, some major customers that we have developed. We also have a deep experience in this field.
That's correct.
In the last section, I'd like to explain our service. So again, our approach is outsourcing of marketing and sales with high control but low risk. And our role is like your Japan virtual office, and we do all the sales activities, technical matters, and we report everything to you. So you can find the market condition clearly. This is another benefit when you work together with us. And our service fees are very reasonable due to the current exchange rate. Japanese yen is very weak now, so you can take advantage of that. So this is the end of our presentation. And if you have any questions, please let us know.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hasegawa and Takayama, for the very informative presentation and also the good insights. I have the first question by one of our participants. So how would you judge to send European expatriates with several years experience of living in Japan and who is fluent speaking Japanese compared to having a Japanese local staff on the ground?
There's some, weird business culture here. Satoshi experienced that. Actually, Japanese don't want to disclose true emotional opinion to a foreigner, right?
Yeah, that's right. So the OEM customers, when, for example, when we had quality issues, then OEM customers strongly claimed to me. But after that, I requested the product manager in the US to come to Japan, then apologize to the Japanese customer. But the Japanese customer said, "Hey, welcome to Japan. Do you enjoy Japanese food?" So he never claimed strongly to the overseas, American guy. So they sometimes are not so, honest. They cannot claim strongly to the foreign visitors. So, that's the issue, I think.
Yeah, most Japanese try to avoid a conflict with a foreigner, even in the Japanese language, because they are sort of risk averse and they don't want to fight with a foreigner. So
yes,
recommend that.
Yeah, so we recommend to have a local and, if possible, Japanese person who can smoothly communicate with Japanese customers.
Yes, because of the way of the communication, which is two different types, depending on Japanese or foreign customer.
Exactly, that's right.
Okay, so I think we're 3 minutes over time. I will just use one more question, and then for the others, for the rest of you, if you have any more questions, you can send them directly to me, and then we will send the answers back to you. So one of the questions is also, is it possible that our sales team in China manages our Japanese customers?
It's somewhat complicated. Actually, Japan has some families originally from China, and the Chinese name wouldn't be a problem. But if he speaks with a Chinese accent, probably he can perform well. So, but better than Europeans, because Chinese looks like very similar with Japanese. So if he's been living in Japan for 20 years or 30 years, probably he can perform well, but he has to speak like a native speaker.
Exactly. Again, the same problem with some European-looking client, I would say. One more last question, and then for the others, we get so many questions about if you can get the presentation. Yes, just send me an email for those who want to have the presentation. I will send the link back to you once it's ready. One last question. How much budget is needed for investing in the case of having an own sales team in Japan, approximately?
Okay. If you go on a very thrift way, like one bilingual sales manager and one assistant, probably you have to pay at least €250,000 in the first year. But it's a very thrift way, you know. If you prefer a good office or, you know, like double master degrees, probably it could be $500,000. So,
yeah, it can be double. Yes.
Yeah, I don't recommend such a big investment at the beginning of market entry. After finding business opportunities, you can go to the next step.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we're 5 minutes over time, so I would like to conclude our webinar today. Thank you so much for the participation, for your interest. As mentioned, if you're interested in getting the presentation, the recording, just send an email to me. And yeah, I wish you a nice weekend and have a good day, and see you in our next webinar, I would say.
Thank
you
you
very
everyone.
much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.